and said, we will pray and fast about this for you. And the Lord sent her a young man shortly after that she didn't know. He called up her through connections, why he had heard about her, and called up her dad and said, I'd like to be able to talk to your daughter and see her, and nothing. Man, the Lord just went right through, and they're happily married with a whole house full of kids now. It just like that. Why? Because she waited on the Lord, and she waited for the Lord to do what he had for her. And so it can be tough waiting, but Hannah waited and waited for years as she watched her adversary having children. Well, now it's come back. Verse 21, the man Elkanah and his house went up to offer unto the Lord the yearly sacrifice and his vow. But Hannah went not up, for she said unto her husband, I will not go up until the child be weaned, and then I will bring him, that he may appear before the Lord, and there abide forever. So she was going to spend the time there with that young Samuel, and as he was being trained as a toddler and a young person, and then as soon as he was old enough to be on his own, which was very young, I don't know the age here, but so she took him up after he was weaned, and I'm guessing that's about probably 5-6 years old, somewhere in there, that she was through raising him at that point. And that's an interesting thing too, because children need to be trained from birth through their first couple years. When you miss that initial training and don't get it in there, things really can go topsy-turvy. All of a sudden you have children with wills that are not your will. And you don't want to break their spirit, but their will has to be under control. It has to be under God's will and your will when you're the parent. And so people need to understand that. But so here, she said, I'll go up there and let him abide forever when he's weaned. And verse 23, and Elkanah her husband said unto her, do what seemeth thee good. Tarry until thou have weaned him. Only the Lord establish his word. So the woman abode and gave her son suck until she weaned him. Now, again, here she is. Her husband says, you do what the Lord wants you to do, and then complete what you've promised to the Lord, what we have to do. And that's what she was willing to do. She had promised that, vowed that to the Lord, and so he was going to be the Lord's. Verse 24, let's see. Verse 24, and when she had weaned him, she took him up with her, with 3 bullocks, 1 ephah of flour, a bottle of wine, and brought him into the house of the Lord in Shiloh, and the child was young. So that's all we know about his age. They slew a bullock and brought the child to Eli, and she said, O my Lord, as thy soul liveth, my Lord, I am the woman that stood by thee here, praying unto the Lord. For this child I prayed, and the Lord hath given me my petition which I asked of him. Therefore also I have lent him to the Lord. As long as he liveth, he shall be lent to the Lord. And he worshipped the Lord there. What a great man and prophet and leader in Israel, judge for Israel, Samuel was. Raised in a godly atmosphere and then lent to the Lord. Dedicated to him from before birth. Dedicated to the Lord. And Hannah prayed and said, my heart rejoiceth in the Lord. Mine horn is exalted in the Lord. My mouth is enlarged over mine enemies, because I rejoice in thy salvation. In this case, her salvation was having a child. Okay, and so now she can rejoice over her enemies that had been mocking her and making fun of her. And so this is what her prayer, she prayed this. There is none holy as the Lord. There is none beside thee. Neither is there any rock like our God. Talk no more so exceeding proudly. Let not arrogancy come out of your mouth. For the Lord is a God of knowledge, and by him actions are weighed. Here she's talking about her adversary. You know, you've been pretty proud and haughty. Well, don't let it get to your head. You know, humble yourself. Come down. The bows of the mighty men are broken, and they that stumbled are girded with strength. So she's the one. She's the one that wasn't the mighty one, but now she's girded with strength. And Samuel there. This is the figurative, what it's talking about in parable type. They that were full have hired them out themselves for bread, and they that were hungry ceased. So that the barren hath borne 7, and she that hath many children is waxed feeble. The Lord killeth and maketh alive. He bringeth down to the grave and bringeth up. The Lord maketh poor and maketh rich. He bringeth low and lifteth up. He raiseth up the poor out of the dust, and lifteth up the beggar from the dunghill, to set them among princes, and to make them inherit the throne of glory. For the pillars of the earth are the Lord's, and he hath set the world upon them. Boy, she knows about her Creator God. She knows about this God. He's going to lift people up, bring up the people that he wants, and make them inherit the throne of glory. So they're going to be, God will do that. And so he's brought her up, and she's in glory right now. Verse 9, he will keep the feet of his saints, and the wicked shall be silent in darkness. For by strength shall no man prevail. And so it's not the strength of the person that's going to do them. It's the strength of God and your faith in God. She had great faith in God, and her strength was in the Lord. And the Lord's the one that opened her womb and gave her children. For by strength shall no man prevail. The adversaries of the Lord shall be broken to pieces. Out of heaven shall he thunder upon them. The Lord shall judge the ends of the earth, and he shall give strength unto his king, and exalt the horn of his anointed. That's what the Lord's going to do. Don't worry about what's going on around you. Don't worry about all the wicked people that are ruling in the world today and that are talking in the world today. God's going to take care of them, okay? And so don't fret. Psalm 37, the fret not psalm, okay? If you just don't fret about these things. And so read that psalm if you have problems fretting about what's going on and about the people around you. But don't fret. The Lord shall judge the ends of the earth. He shall give strength unto his king, and exalt the horn of his anointed. It'll be exalted. Verse 11, and Elkanah went to Ramah to his house, and the child did minister unto the Lord before Eli the priest. And so Elkanah went home. The child stayed there with the priest now, just a young child. And he's being raised now with Eli there and the priest, seeing how all this stuff works. Let's drop through verse 18 now to verse 18. We'll see some more of this probably next week, but beginning in verse 18 now. But Samuel ministered before the Lord, being a child, girded with a linen ephod. Moreover, his mother made him a little coat and brought it to him from year to year, when she came up with her husband to offer the yearly sacrifice. She got to see him every year. Isn't that wonderful? That here's this young man to watch him grow up with the Lord. And now at this point, he still didn't know the Lord. Understand? He is in the age before he's accountable, before he even knows about who the Lord is. And we'll see that. I don't know if we'll see that today or next week. And Eli blessed Elkanah and his wife and said, the Lord give thee seed of this woman for the loan which is lent to the Lord. And they went unto their own home. So Eli now gives a blessing and says, the Lord grant children, because you've had one and lent to the Lord, now have plenty. And so the Lord visited Hannah, so she conceived and bare 3 sons and 2 daughters, and the child Samuel grew before the Lord. So we see that patience and waiting can be very difficult, and with an adversary next to you and all these things. But she raised Samuel for the Lord, and then the Lord took over. Now, in one last verse, in verse 26 there, and the child Samuel grew on and was in favor, both with the Lord and also with men. And so Samuel had quite a time. You remember Israel looked to Samuel, and then as he replaced Eli for the priest. So I guess we'll stop there, and we'll have some more from Samuel in the next few weeks, I presume, and we'll just continue on. There's things in Samuel that you'll love, I hope. I just love it. It's a great stuff from the history. And one of the things when we were doing the Thursday night Bible study and we saw the idolatry in Egypt, made me think of Samuel here, because in Samuel is where the remember the god Dagon, and you remember how they, when the Philistines, and we'll see all that later, but the Philistines took the Ark of the Covenant captive and they put it into the temple of Dagon. And what happened? Dagon fell down on his face and before the Ark of the Covenant. Fell down to worship God, is what you'd say. And they set him back up. And then what happened? Then he fell down and he broke his arms and got all busted up when he fell down the next time. And so then the Philistines, being wise in their own ways, wiser sometimes than the believers, I think, they said, "This isn't good. Their God's stronger than ours. Let's get him out of here." Now, they should have turned to the God, but the problem wasn't, so they went on. And so those things are coming up. Serving God the wrong way, different things, giving God the glory. Dagon decides to worship and fall down, when when they put the Ark of the Covenant in there. And we'll be looking at some other things, doing it God's way and so forth, as we go through the beginning chapters here of Samuel. So real interesting history that we can study. Okay, let's take a break and then we'll continue on.